More and more details are coming out about how the provincial government wants to guide residents back to quote unquote normal. But after 14 months of restrictions and fear around COVID-19, some people may not be as eager to reopen. For more on this, I'm joined by Phyllis O'Connor. She's the executive director of the Canadian Mental Health Association Saskatchewan Division. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting.
More than a year ago, when we first started seeing public health measures, it was difficult to convince people to stay home because they didn't know what COVID-19 was capable of. Now, after knowing the real ramifications, how do people manage the fear and anxiety they might be feeling?
Well, I think different people are reacting to this differently. There are some folks that are so tired of being cooped up that they're going to come rushing out with their arms wide open and ready to get involved again. But there's also a significant number that are still really having a lot of anxiety around the reopening and they're having to go back to work. And, when you think about it, we've been kind of locked up and told it's dangerous out there for over a year now. So all of a sudden to be told now you can come back to work, there's some residual anxiety that's going to be hanging on there that's going to make some folks very hesitant about it.
What about people who've never experienced mental health struggles or anxiety before?
Yeah, and that's actually a lot of people after this. What we've gone through is really, can be categorized as a trauma. Folks that have never had problems before have been dealing with the whole social isolation thing. People are hardwired for social connection. That was taken away. They're always under the kind of constant uncertainty of what's going to happen next, or am I going to get sick? Or so, over time, when you keep that cumulative kind of crisis mode in, anxiety does build up, and that's completely normal. We're in a situation here where most of us had no clue, no guidebook on how to deal with this. Often mixed messages. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and when people are faced with uncertainty, then anxiety is kind of a natural consequence of that sustained uncertainty.
And I'm guessing, just anecdotally through what you're hearing through your organization, that this anxiety is a little more common than people would assume it is, both in personal and professional situations.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's, so many people, like I said, have been kind of told that you have to stay home. You only go out to get your groceries and do the necessary things because the whole idea is that it's kind of inherently dangerous out there. But, all of a sudden you're told, well, no, now you've got to go back to work because of reopening. But you've maintained that concern for so long that it becomes ingrained, and it's only natural that people are going to have some anxiety around that. So it's important, just recognize you're feeling anxious, and there's no shame in that. It's normal.
What are some simple coping mechanisms that people might find helpful?
I think the most important one, honestly, for people is first, don't deny what you're feeling. It's legitimate, it's real, and it's okay to reach out and get some help. But as far as coping yourself, deal with the things that you can control. But if it's something outside of your control, then you got to let that go. It's not good for our mental health. So, things, you can wear your mask, you can keep your physical distancing, you can use your hand sanitizer. Those are things that are easily controlled. But if you start getting concerned about that other person in line is not doing, well, you can't control what they're doing. You have to kind of let that piece go. And then find things that bring some comfort and joy to you. So maybe it's just disengaging to get out and go and walk in nature for a bit. There are studies that are showing the silence of nature is really a healing thing for people and a good part of the recovery from that anxiety. Or maybe, it's making those connections, even though we're getting close, we can pretty soon be together again, but maybe it's just making those connections with grandma and grandpa over Zoom meetings, or through that kind of a connection. Things that bring you a little bit of support and a little bit of calm in a world that really isn't very calm right now at all. And be very careful about where you're getting your information from. There's a lot of stuff out there. It can increase your anxiety because there are so many conflicting messages too. So when you're getting your information, make sure it's from reliable sources so you can make informed decisions. but then also kind of monitor your consumption of that. Constantly having the COVID news in the background can actually produce more anxiety for folks. And social media too. I mean, I have heard of people that just had to totally disconnect because it was just making too much anxiety when they were constantly seeing all that the worrisome stuff around COVID. So just give yourself a bit of a breather, understand you're doing the best you can. And we need to do that also for our employees and coworkers. Everybody is doing the best they can in a hard situation. We need to recognize that and just show some empathy, show some support. And you know what? We're going to get through. The light's at the end of the tunnel now.
Phyllis, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Phyllis O'Connor is the Executive Director of the Canadian Mental Health Association Saskatchewan Division.